Warning. This podcast you're about to listen to will contain spoilers, misinformation, bad ideas, useless topics, and a lot of laughing. Performed by professional idiots that most of the time don't know what they're talking about and take everything said with a grain of salt. Now sit back, relax, try not to cringe, and enjoy.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode and hopefully get some mild enjoyment. I know it's been a while, and we did a new format which we'll talk to after the intro. But anyway, we're going to talk about this week, which is the new Pokemon trailer, Scarlet and Violet. So we'll kind of dig into that. My name is Josh. I'm your host.
And I'm Jared.
And this is Hazard Animations. Alright, welcome back. And Jared's still making me laugh. So yeah, as you can probably tell, we're doing a completely new format for the podcast, which I sent to my team, what was that, a week ago? Something like that.
Yeah.
So we're doing a completely reformat, trying to make it better, more enjoyable, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for the rest of the episode. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about today is the new Pokemon trailer, Scarlet and Violet. And I was kind of doing a quick background of it, and then we'll kind of dig into it. It was released on the 27th of February, and it's basically announcing the new Gen 9 that they're launching, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of really all we know. It was just a minute long video maybe.
Yeah.
And it was just
super short. Very little detail.
Very no detail. So, and it's
hopefully that the security guard plays a big role in the game. I mean, right? Like,
hopefully. If not, it's going to be kind of
gotta be a main character.
Maybe
it's like an Inception sort of thing where this is the first Pokemon game where you learn in the game that you're in a game.
That would be interesting.
You know what I mean?
That would be interesting. Okay. So it's kind of like from what I'm understanding, it's like the Pokemon Arceus. Arceus. I keep saying Arceus. It's Arceus. Where it's kind of like an open world, unlike what we've normally seen. So kind of just like starting off, what was like your first thoughts when you saw it? Kind of just
so trailers like this are always difficult for me because I'm the type of person who I want very little information from a trailer. So like especially when it comes to like movies, like I don't want to know like what the plot or the premise is. I just need some like grabby shots or action shots or get some images of some characters and stuff like that. And so like I like a trailer like this where we don't really learn anything. They're not laying out like, hey, here's the new features or the new functions that we're putting into this one or here's, really some of the new Pokemon that we're going to be releasing. It's just like a hype. Like,
right.
We're coming out with a new game. They're going to be called Scarlet and Violet, and that's all we know. And so I like that because it leaves all this open room for interpretation, and you get to let the anticipation build.
Right.
So like as things get discovered, as we learn things like, oh, here's this cool new exciting little bit of information. I also think it's smart from the perspective of like Game Freak because they know that there's all sorts of YouTubers and streamers and podcasts and all sorts of things.
Like we're on right now.
Like we're on. And so people make a living. Their channel is about like, well, maybe the game's going to be like this. Maybe the final evolution of this starter is going to look like this.
Yeah.
And so
I've seen art on like TikTok and stuff. People saying like this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, and that's always super cool because I love some of the fan art. There's a lot of fan art out there that I'm like, man, this would have made such a better version of this Pokemon or that Pokemon than what they actually ended up going with. So I'd love to see Game Freak do some sort of contest where it's like, hey, here's the idea of a starter, write in, a second or third evolution, and we'll do a vote on it or something like that. You'll get your art into the game. That would be super cool.
Yeah, well, and also too, it's like they didn't announce a whole lot. Like Arceus just came out in January, and now they're saying late. They didn't even say a date. It's just late 2022. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of like, and I'm kind of like the opposite. I want as much detail as I can in a trailer.
Yeah. Without
giving too much. I want to know, which we're going to do podcast on another time, is the new Kenobi. Another podcast, another time, but That's kind of the trailer I don't like when it's not that much detail.
You and I are very because I haven't seen the trailer. Like I actively avoid like movie trailers, especially around anything that I have any kind of interest. So like they've been talking about doing a Kenobi spin-off series or a movie for years, right?
Right.
And so like I've had a ton of anticipation. I've thought like Ewan McGregor's still plenty young, like he could do something. So why not strike while the iron's hot, as it were?
Right.
So I try to avoid because I want more information. I want to watch the show and learn all this stuff, right? But like the way they've been doing trailers for everything in the last several years is just I feel like they give too much away, and so like I know that there's a balance between like. We've got to give you some information to kind of pique your interest, but we don't want to give you too much information. I feel like they've been erring on the side of too much information with a lot of things for a while. Because I don't want to know, like, all of this stuff. Like, I like to kind of be surprised with the game. Like, oh, hey, here's this, like, new feature that I'm kind of learning and, having to kind of figure out as we go.
Yeah, because, like, kind of going back into the game, too, is, like, with the new Modern Warfare that came out back in, I think it was 2019. When I heard about it, I'm saying, wait, there's Cat and Bryce in it. And then you got, like, and then seeing that first on the trailer, I'm like, I'm buying it. So literally, as soon as I saw the trailer, I snuck out of the house and went into GameStop and pre-ordered. This is a true story. It's another story for another time. But literally, I said, hey, Mom, I got to go somewhere really quick. She's like, where are you going? I'll be back. Went to GameStop, pre-ordered the $100 one. I went all the DLC and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's like, where'd you go? I was like, nowhere. Put the receipt in my back pocket and just kind of went in the room like, I didn't go nowhere.
Doing my own thing.
Yeah. So it's kind of, even like with game, I want something that's intriguing. So when I saw this, Pokemon, going back to the Pokemon, this is actually one of the first Pokemon games of the new generation that I'm actually really looking forward to buying. Which, because like, so when Sun and Moon came out, or Black and White was kind of like my downfall of Pokemon. I just wasn't, after Black and White, I'm like, I don't really like anything past that. Then X and Y came out, I think was next. I didn't really, now I like it. I didn't like the game when it came out. Sun and Moon I didn't like. Alpha Ruby, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. They were good games. They're just remakes. I didn't think they were entirely well made. I think they were just kind of. Yeah. Sword and Shield, good. I liked them. I like the concept. Just, again, not my really kind of game I like. Now the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl that came out, those were awesome. That's kind of what got me back into it. I love the games. I've only played Brilliant Diamond so far. Haven't beaten it yet, which is bad. Okay, I got in trouble with Elite Four. They were making me mad, so I rage quit. I'm like, no. But this is the first game of a new generation that's been announced, and I'm actually like, as soon as I saw the trailer the day after, I literally drove to GameStop. I said, can I pre-order these yet? And they're like, it's not even in our system.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Is like, this is the first new generation that I'm wanting to
It's
play.
really funny to hear you say that, because I haven't put like as many hours into like Sun and Shield as I did some of the older games, because like I'm like you, I grew up on Red and Blue.
Right.
I played that for forever, and I put probably 4 or 5.
See, my first was Ruby and Sapphire.
Ruby and Sapphire.
That was my first.
Yeah. So like I started from the beginning.
Right.
And like that's kind of like my comfort feel Pokemon game. Like, it's familiar. Like, I know where everything is. I know all the secret stuff. I know all the puzzles. And so like each game that they made, like after that, it was less and less comfortable feeling, and it's always more of like, because I remember the feeling of like there's these 150 Pokemon and they're all brand new, and everything felt super cool. Everything felt like, man, this is a really cool Pokemon that I want to have. And with each like subsequent generation, it was like, well, there's less and less of like the Pokemon that I actually want to catch. And so like getting to Sword and Shield after having taken a couple of years of like I'm just done playing them. I picked Sword up, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was super cool, very fresh. I liked the the open world kind of concept. I liked being able to like see the Pokemon that you were if you're out in the wild, the grass area or wherever, like you can see them. Like this is, and you run.
You know which ones to avoid.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the idea of like there being some particularly strong Pokemon in different areas, like so these evolved forms are just running around, and it's like okay, that one's like going to be way too strong for me to fight right now, so I can avoid that. Or like hey, this is a strong one, I'm going to go after it. I don't like the Dynamaxing. I thought was a cool concept, and I would have been a much bigger fan of if more of the artwork had been adapted. So it's like because I was a huge fan of Mega Evolutions. Yeah, I thought those were super cool. I wish they would have had like more Mega Evolutions. But with the Dynamaxing, like it would have been really cool if everything had like not a complete like redesign of like the final stage of evolution, but a variation. So it's like there's a few of them that they did that way. Yeah. But I would have liked to see more variation from the Dynamax. And like, hey, if you've got a fully evolved Pokemon of any kind and you Dynamax it, it's gonna look different. Right. Like the one I think of in particular that I really liked was Machamp. His Dynamax version I think looks super good. But I mean, they didn't do like a whole lot to revamp it, but it's just a little different. Yeah. Which I thought was super cool. But the thing I did like about like the Dynamax stuff was all the little like Dynamax battles, like makes it feel like you're doing Pokemon Go type raids. You know, you're going to these different places, and I thought that was really cool. Yeah. So I really liked Sword. I thought it was a really good game. And when I watched this trailer for the new Pokemon game, I'm like, it looks like the exact same game set in a different region. Yeah. Which maybe that's really all that it ends up being. It's not very different at all. And that's really okay for me because I'm like, I think Sword and Shield, I think they were good games. Yeah. I enjoyed playing them. So I'm optimistic that this next one will be, cool. And Game Freak's always trying to do like a little new feature or a little new function and stuff like that. Which good on them for like trying new things. Sometimes I get
how long has Game Freak been around anyway? Like that's
I don't know.
Pokemon, the first Pokemon game. They're still making.
All I know is that whenever I would fire up Pokemon Red, the little screen would pop up and it would say whatever the name was, 1995, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I was 5 then. And I always remember that. So I don't know if they've been making games since 95 or if that was a variation of the company or something. I don't know enough of like Game Freak history.
Neither do I. I didn't write any of this down either. Yeah. Well, it's like, for me, for even like Generation, it's anything past 5 I really didn't like. Now I started, after I kind of went back, after Black and White, I kind of just dropped off. I'm just like, they're running out of ideas. But now that I kind of look back at some of the generations I've missed, like the show-wise, which is the X and Y series. It's actually one of my favorite series.
Oh, really?
I love it. And also we're doing an animation on that, hopefully between Ash and Serena, which was cool. Hoping on that. I was going to work on that before I announced it, but I'm already announcing it, so it's going to...
You heard it here first. It's happening.
I should have announced, but but I started liking it, and I'm like, why didn't I watch this before? So now I'm starting to like the Pokemon, like Froakie. Turns into Greninja, which is just a complete spin-off of a Naruto character. There's really no way to get around saying that. It's like it's a Pokemon and a Naruto character. Yeah. Or whatever way you want to spin it. Yeah. But anything past 5 is really where I just dropped off. 5th is the Diamond and Pearls generation. Yeah. After that, I'm just kind of dropped off because Gen 4 would be Torchic, Mudkip, and what's the grass?
Mudkip, Torchic, Sceptile was like the final evolution, I think.
Not Gravel. It's
Trico.
There you go, Trico. That was my favorite gen, just because I grew up with that one. What was I saying? With that gen, anything past 5 I just really didn't like. So now looking at this one, I'm like, this actually looks really cool. Especially I was like trying to incorporate some of the Pokemon from the older generations into this, and especially like the favorites, like a Blissey, like that's one of the favorites. And I redid it to make it look good and stuff. So it's really just kind of how they're revamping and bringing some of the old ones back. Like I see ones from, of course, Pikachus in every single game. There's
Yeah.
really no way to get around that.
Yeah, it's hard to walk away from Pikachu.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be like Disneyland getting rid of Mickey Mouse. Like, oh, we're not doing Mickey Mouse. And, what do you mean you're not doing Mickey Mouse?
Exactly.
He's the whole thing. Like, you stand on the shoulders of Mickey Mouse. What is wrong with you? Pikachu built this.
Exactly.
I agree. I think some of like what they've done with like the different forms. So like I haven't played a lot of these versions too, where they have like the Alolan forms, or like in Shield they have I forget what
Unova, I think.
Yeah, the Unova like forms and stuff like that. So there's like I think like Ponyta and Rapidash have like a Unova form.
Yeah.
It's more of like an ice instead of fire or whatever.
Yeah.
And not my cup of tea, but like.
Don't
They
fix
look,
things.
They look cute. Like
Yeah.
I could see the appeal to some people, like doing a revamp of Ponyta and Rapidash into more of that sort of a thing.
Right.
So I think that some of that's cool, but there was like, especially with like the Alola form stuff, there was a lot of that I was like, this is not like. It seems like this is targeted at like young girls, like under 10. Like everything's all cutesy and like princessy and stuff like that, and I'm like. All right, if that's what you're trying to go for, like, great. But, I don't like that. I'm a 31-year-old man. Like, I don't want the cutesy Pokemon.
Right.
I don't want the one, like... Although, I will admit that I did in my Sword playthroughs, I like catching... it's a Vanillite.
Oh, yeah. Ice cream.
The little ice cream thing. I'm like, oh, my gosh. This is cool.
We did a joke on that at the last podcast we did, which was bad.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm optimistic too. I like what they do now. I think the Switch helps a lot.
Yeah.
Because the Switch being able to transfer from like taking it on the go and
then
put
putting
it
it on
on
TV.
the big screen, like that was. I remember with Red and Blue, there was a special like adapter you could get for. I think it was a Super Nintendo.
Yep.
That you could put your blue or red cartridge into, and then you could play it on the TV.
Yeah.
And I had a friend come over one time. It was like a friend of a friend was staying the night, and the friend of the friend brought that, and so we all took turns like playing through the first 15, 16 levels, so like you got your starter evolved, and it was like the next person's turn, and that was so much fun.
Oh yeah.
Like I thought that was the coolest thing ever, being able to play it on the TV. So being able to do that on the Switch, I think helps a lot for the games that they're making now. Like it just makes a lot of sense, and it's really cool. So the Switch helps. Playing like these new versions, the way they just look at everything, I think is cool.
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out where I was going to go with this, but just like I can't remember what I was saying, but like the new games, I can't remember what I was saying. With the appeal, you said something like how it appeals to certain ages.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. Say what you...
Yeah, because like I get like if Game Freak is persistently trying to appeal to like kids 12 and under, because when I first started playing, I think I was less than 10 or something like that. I think I was a kid. It was a Christmas gift from the uncle we saw like once every couple of years. He brought me and my brother Game Boy and a copy of Red and a copy of Blue. And so, like, if Game Freak is trying to target those people and not trying to age with the fans, which I understand, because I don't want a Pokemon game which gets, like, an M rating, and all of a sudden, like, the Pokemon are bleeding all over the place.
Yeah, we
there's
don't
all
need
this
that.
sexual content. Like, I get that you're trying to kind of keep the game young, like the Ashes Forever, 10 effect on the game. Like,
there's a theory on that
get
I'll mention at the end, too, about why Ash is always 10.
There's some fun conversations around that. So yeah, like the appeal.
But like, so one thing I always found that was frustrating for me is the Pokemon games now to what you grew up when I grew up with, how hard it was to level up, and also how to get all the money to buy the things you needed. Because like now when you start Sword and Shield, you start off with $10,000. Money. But you start off with that much, so you can buy brand new outfits, hair, everything in the first town you get into. When we were younger, you start from zero, and you have to work. And I can't remember where I was going, but it's hard for people like even me. It's like you guys they're like, it's so hard. No, it's not. It's that you guys don't know the grind of it.
Yeah.
Of how it used to be like. So like if you wanted to get a Gyarados in one of the original, That took forever. Like there was no way getting around that.
Like how in the older versions where it wasn't that every Pokemon in your party got the like EXP share.
You had to go individual.
Or you had to find the EXP share item, put it in your bag,
and usually it wasn't towards the end.
You were like at least halfway through the game before you found it, and it wasn't like it was giving much. So it was still faster for you to like start your weakest Pokemon and like in first turn switch something else in there into the fight, and then go through the fight that way,
and then switch out again.
It took forever. It did. It took so much longer.
Well, especially like 20 levels, so you have your Magic Carpet's like what, level 1?
Level
5.
3, level 5 something.
And it's like it does take forever. That's what people are like, oh, it's so hard. Like, no, it's not.
It's really not, and it's they've made it very user friendly and very
which I like. I'm not saying I don't, but it helps. But still, it's like it was so much harder back then, and now it's not.
Well, and back then I also didn't have super ready access to like the internet. So like now if I have a problem on a game, I pull up my phone and I look for a guide or a walkthrough or some tips or something like that. Back then it was like you maybe you went to like GameStop and you found one of the like playthrough manuals, and for as long as your mom would let you sit in GameStop reading the little manual, you could read it and like maybe get some tips or stuff. But it was never enough time to like you certainly couldn't memorize anything. You just couldn't take it home with you, like unless like your parents were like, oh yeah, I'll buy you the game guide. But my parents never did. And so
I remember Matt did a story, and Matt, you're probably gonna listen to this. I'll send it to you. On our last Pokemon podcast. So I guess him and his brother, you know how like in the original when your Pokemon was poisoned, it would do the glitch effect? Mm-hmm. They thought the game was broken, and they turned it back into GameStop saying the game's broken.
Oh, really?
And then this is, again, Matt, so check out the last podcast, the Pokemon one. He's like, we didn't realize until after like 3 years later that the game wasn't glitched. It was the way the game was made.
That's so funny because I remember like seeing that, and I thought nothing of it. I thought like this was weird. Something.
I thought like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, and then I looked. I was like, okay, got it.
Yeah, that was funny. I can't believe they turned it back in.
And it's like one of the originals. So like, imagine what it would be worth now.
Yeah, I don't know. I kept my red and blue for a long time, but actually, I think I do still have a copy of blue. I still have like my original blue version that I've played. Like every once in a while I'll pick it back up and play it.
I had the original Emerald from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I think they remade, like they did like the remakes of the Ruby and Sapphire on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
I happened to just buy those because I remember the original when they came in like the boxes for the Game Boy Advance.
Oh yeah.
And I thought those were the coolest thing. You got like the box and now those boxes alone run at $100.
Oh really?
Just the box, not including the.
I'm not surprised about that because I don't know anybody that kept the box.
None of us did. It wasn't. We were like, when I got the game, I was like 5 or something. Like it wasn't that big of a deal. It's just like it's a box. Look. Cool.
I do remember I used to, like, when I would get a new video game of any kind, I used to really enjoy going through the manual and, like, seeing all the pictures and stuff. So I spent a lot of time, like, looking at the manual before I ever, like, popped the game in and started. That used to be, like, a really big thing for me, was being able to go through the manual and stuff. And so now that they've kind of gone away from manuals, I'm like, oh, I kind of missed that.
Yeah. Well, it's like, even now that I'm older, too, with all, like, the game cases and stuff.
Yeah.
I have all the cases for... Unless someone gives it to me, then I don't have the case. But I keep them all.
Yeah.
They're not always all like my Switch games are in like that little container that I carry with me just because they're easier.
Yeah.
But I carry all the cases.
Keep the cases.
Just because it's good to have, and I can look at them and say.
Yeah.
So if I ever want to sell them, I don't say just a cartridge.
Yeah, you got a case.
Case and everything.
Yeah.
Which Pokemon games, like any Nintendo games, hold their value.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like they're like even so. The Pokemon New Snap or whatever, the Pokemon Snap game.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it. People hated it. I thought it was great. I can turn that in right now for full price.
Really?
Like even to GameStop, which GameStop won't give you. I went for a couple, turned in a Sonic game on my Nintendo Switch. Give me full price back for it.
Yeah.
And like even the Pokemon Black, the original one, I still had it. Never played it. Took it to GameStop. They said, we'll give you $60 for it.
Really?
I'm not kidding.
Wow.
They said, we'll give you $60. I'm like, seriously? Like, yep. I've never played it, so just go ahead.
That's pretty awesome.
So
I knew they held their value. I didn't know they held their value that well.
Even an original Mario for the DS,
Yeah.
$50. All ruined and stuff. They hold their value.
That's funny. Wish I had held on to some of my old stuff now.
Yeah,
I had a bunch of that, but so over the years, I would, like, me and my brother, we'd every so often they'd come out with a new console or new big game or whatever, and we'd trade in whatever games we weren't playing anymore, or whatever console we were upgrading from towards the new console. So we never kept like any of our console or games or anything for really all that long, because everything would get traded in towards the next thing.
Right.
So like we didn't keep any of our Pokemon games for very long because it was always like trade in value towards the next one.
Right.
You know? But yeah, that's crazy. It'd be cool.
And then like now that I wish I would have kept all the game systems I had when I was a kid, because now I'm almost 22, and I'm going through and buying all the old game systems that I had.
Yeah.
Like the next one I'm buying is a PSP.
I have a PS Vita.
Oh,
and when I went and picked it up, the guy at GameStop was like, "Are you like they carried it? They carried it to sell." And he was trying to talk me out of buying it because he was like, "Well, they just don't make that many games. They didn't make that many games for it, and there's not that many things out there for it. It's really not a great console. Like, you shouldn't get it." I'm like, "I don't care what you think. I want to buy one. I will buy one. I am a grown adult.
Right.
Do you have one for me to purchase or not?" Like, that's really the only question. He did. And he brought it out and I bought it. And I love that thing. I played it for probably a full year. And, just, it was nice to have something portable on the go. Graphics were great. Like, I found a couple, like, I didn't find tons of games that I was like, oh yeah, I'd play all of these. But I found a few that I liked. And it was nice, And I had a PSP when I was younger.
Yeah, and that's I recently just got the game Daxter from the PSP off Jack, and then Clank. That's the dual package.
Yeah.
So my sister helped me get those. So now the only problem is I don't have a PSP. I have the game. I don't have a PSP.
I think you did those things out of order. I think you're supposed to get like the system. I guess I don't know. It doesn't really matter either way. Like, you have to have both.
Yeah.
So you can't. It's like whatever.
Yeah, and then like I want to get the PS3 because I just want one, but I want to buy one that's backwards compatible.
Oh yeah.
I found one on OfferUp, $300.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I really want it.
That's crazy. $300 that seems like so much for a PS3.
Yeah, but also because it's backwards, there's only like hardly any that are still available.
I guess that makes sense.
Because you can go all the way back to PS1.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was thinking, like, I want it, but I can't afford it.
It was funny. So, like, I remember growing up with, like, the console wars were very much a thing. Like, you had, like, we were, like, an Xbox house. Like,
my house is PlayStation.
You were PlayStation. So, like, we had friends that were PlayStation people, and it was like, we just played very different games. And so it was always so exciting going over to, like, their house or them coming to our house, because it was like, you're getting to play this thing. Because my parents, we weren't, most of my friends and me, like, we didn't come from families where it was like, oh yeah, we'll just get you both consoles. You have a PlayStation and an Xbox. Like, you get one or the other. That's it. And so getting to go over to their house was like this really special thing of, all right, I get to play the PlayStation. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So now that everybody's got, like, either the Switch or the Xbox. Well, I know a bunch of people my age who, like, you grew up playing video games, and now you have adult money from a job and stuff. And it's like, I'll buy whatever Xbox and PlayStation. I'll have them both, and a Switch. Like, who cares?
Yeah,
I want.
And I know, like, Aaron was saying, I know we're getting really off, but just for fun. He was, like, telling, like, the statistics of if you own a PC, you have friends. If you own like, if you have a PC, you're rich. If you own an Xbox, you have friends. If you own a Switch, you're a kid. And if you own a PS4 or PlayStation, you're lonely. And I looked at him. I was like, what does that make me? I have all of those. He said, you're just rich. I said, I can live with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Take that.
But I was like, I have all of them. I spent $2,000 on a brand new PC.
Yeah.
Plus a Switch, PS4, Xbox One, PS2, whole shebang. I have all of them.
All the stuff.
especially the new ones. I don't have PS5 and Xbox X. I don't feel like spending the extra money on those. It's just kind of... I'd rather go back than
the
forward.
Xbox X, and like we're at the point in the consoles that, to me, like if I were gonna go buy a new console of any kind, I'd buy a gaming PC. Like I wouldn't get an Xbox or a PlayStation, like, because they're, I mean, price wise, there's a lot of equivalence.
Right.
There's, you know, it just doesn't make as much sense to me. Like, why would, if I'm gonna spend $600, $700, $800 or whatever, like, why would I not just get like a nice gaming PC, spend a little bit more, spend $1,400, $1,500 or whatever? Because I did the same thing. I bought a $2,000 Alienware laptop.
Oh yeah.
Because I do video editing.
Right.
And so
if
you're gonna do video editing, a lot of the specs are the same for like gaming computers and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go get. So I have an Alienware laptop, but I have so much like footage and like editing software on there that I actively avoid putting much else on it, because I'm like, nah, I want this to be like, this is just like video editing and whatever. But yeah, if I was gonna buy like a new console, I'd go the PC route.
Yeah, because that's why I need a new PC too, is because doing the Twitch streaming. I'll talk about that later, by the way.
It's talking about the stream and the podcast within the podcast. It's like podcastception.
Something like that, yeah. Okay.
Breaking the fourth wall there.
Well, that's kind of the point.
I guess so. I guess, yeah. This is kind of the point.
So I need it like for streaming and stuff, but also for like editing animations and stuff. And then now the thing I need to do more animating is get a drawing tablet for my PC. Because I have my Surface, which I use, but I need something that's for the PC that has a little bit better run.
Yeah.
That I can do extra stuff with, and it moves faster. It literally, this takes me probably a minute to turn on, get everything running. Mm-hmm. My PC, I just click the button, 3-4 numbers in, and it's started up.
Yep.
And just within less than 30 seconds, it's already started up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I guess we need to talk about Pokemon again.
Yeah, so
we
back
to... We went on a long tangent for
Sorry.
like 20 minutes, but
Sorry.
It's all good. What starter would you pick?
Okay, so I did have to look up. I looked up the name. So there's Sprigatito, which is like the grass. It's a grass cat, which I guess it kind of looks like a cat. There's Fuecoco or Fuecoco or something like that. That's the fire croc. And then there's Quaxley. Quaxley is the duckling Pokemon, and so by nature of it being a duckling, I would assume it's going to turn into a swan. And these other are crocodiles and cats and stuff like that. So if I had to pick one of these three, I am always biased when picking starters.
Fire type.
I am usually a fire type.
Most people are.
So like there are some exceptions to that, because so like Charmander is like the pinnacle starter for me. Like he's the best that's ever been or ever will be, and I know that that's not true, but in my mind that's true. Like he's my favorite, Charmander. But what was the Feraligatr? The first one was Totodile. Totodile I was a big fan of.
Yeah.
And so in that, I think that was Gold and Silver, the second generation.
Yeah.
I was a Totodile guy. But for me, for like this generation, and especially looking at these three, one, none of them super appeal to me. No. There's not any of them that I'm like, oh, definitely. Like 100%. And so when I come from that perspective, I usually just divert to the fire type.
Right.
But there is like, I would much rather like a crocodile type Pokemon than a cat or a duck.
See, for me, when I kind of think about it, my to-go was usually fire types, with, like you said, a few exceptions. Because, like, Cyndaquil.
Yeah, it's good.
Torchic, which is my other podcast, was my absolute favorite. Yeah. Chimchar. Mm-hmm. I did like Charmander. I didn't play a lot of the first, just kind of...
Yeah.
But those are... Now, I did like... The second and third were the ones I really liked. I think the third was Hoenn, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those are the 2 gens I liked the most. I liked Cyndaquil, Chikorita, Totodile, and then Torchic, Mudkip, and Trico. Well, I remember that after we had that discussion about that. But yeah, usually fire type. For me, I'm doing the cat. I saw the cat, and I'm like, that's the one I'm doing 110%.
Why?
It's a cat!
You just love cats?
I'm a cat person.
Really? You're like, okay.
I have 7 cats.
7 cats?
We have 7 cats in my house.
I did not know that.
You've never been over to my house.
No, I haven't. That's a lot of cats.
I know.
Do they all stay inside?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That's a lot. You're like Carol Baskin.
Well, technically speaking, only one of them is mine.
Okay,
But my sisters keep bringing home more.
Now, you know what other starter that I did like? There was the fire one. Its final was like Delphox.
Oh.
So which...
Fennekin?
Finnegan, yes.
The only reason I know that is because I'd like to ship Ash and Serena in that ship.
Okay.
That's the only reason I know because it's Fennekin, so yeah.
So Finnegan, so that was a really cool starter line for me. I really liked all those evolutions. Finnegan, Delphox, I thought that was a really cool... Well,
that was something different too, not something we've seen. It was a fire psychic.
Yeah.
Not something we normally see in a Pokemon.
So hopefully with these starters, and I'm optimistic. Usually the final forms end up in something that I'm at least mildly interested in, and so I'm optimistic for these ones. They start out super cutesy, and that's kind of the way things go. That's okay. But Fuecoco to me, this fire crocodile thing is going to come out later. That super appeals to me.
Yeah.
But you want the Sprigatito. You're gonna maybe it'll be a grass fighting, and it'll be like a green.
I think some people say like a grass fairy, and which would be cool if they do like a completely different combination of the duck, whatever it's called. I'm gonna call it duck. Quaxley. It would be really cool if they did like a water ice. Just something different. It's not something we normally see because we'll see a water flying because of Piplup water. Yeah. Or
I always think of Lantern, the water electric type combo. Yeah. I thought that thing was super awesome. I love that.
Yeah, that was Lantern. And then for the croc, I'm bad at names. Fuecoco. Doing maybe a fire, ground, or poison, something. Yeah. Something different.
Because they have some crocodile type Pokemon out there that are already ground type. Feraligatr was kind of like a crocodile type thing. So I think these will turn out to be some cool things. I'm very interested to see how they turn out. What their final forms kind of look like and what the type matchings they go with are. But I do like when they do the starters that they have it's not just a straight fire or water, grass, whatever. It's some sort of a different kind of combination that you don't normally see. I think
except if you're for the first gen, because then it's just There's a whole joke about that.
Well, I mean, Charizard, he was fire flying.
No, just fire.
Well, he flew. You could teach him fly.
It's fire.
He is, he's a fire flying. He had wings. He could fly.
So, which game would you get? After we've talked about what, are you going to get one over the other? Which one would you say? I'm going to get this one. Or are you getting both?
I'll only get one. As a rule, I only buy one of the Pokemon games anymore. I don't. Back when I was 15, 16, I would have wanted both, and that would have been super cool. These days, there's I've got friends who will get the other ones. I don't need to own both personally, but between Scarlet and Violet, there's not enough for me to know yet to which one I would kind of lean towards. With Sword and Shield, I knew right away which one I wanted because I was I'd rather have a sword than a shield. Right. So I don't really need to know anything else. But that was validated by kind of figuring out which legendary was associated with that game and some of the different Pokemon that pop up in that one. So at this point, I really have no idea. With names like Scarlet and Violet and not knowing what the legendaries are, which Pokemon are going to pop up in which game, I really don't know. I think if I had to make a choice right now, it'd be Scarlet because I think Scarlet's more of a red and Violet's kind of more purple. So I'm if I've got to pick a color, I'll pick red over purple. But That's a really weak.
It's a weak argument.
choice.
So I was kind of similar when I first was like, which one am I going to get? And I'm like, Violet, I like the color more than Scarlet, and that's just color wise. But I'm like, you know what? I'm getting both of them.
All right, yeah.
So I'm just going to get both of them because then I can say I have both. Because I was going to get both Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Oh yeah.
I haven't gotten Pearl yet, so I don't have. I'm on this quest to every new Pokemon game that comes out on the Switch.
Just trying to get them.
I'm gonna get it.
All right.
I even have Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
Did you like those games?
I hated all of them.
I thought that was a cool idea.
It's a cool idea, just not the.
So I've struggled for a few years about these Pokemon games because I'm like, I would love to see them do like kind of evolve or next gen the combat system in Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's hard because Pokemon is a turn-based like strategy game. Really, that's like what it is at its heart, right? And so like if you change like the combat functions, it's a very different game. Yeah. But I did think that like Pokémon Tournament, I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's being able to see some of these Pokemon like being able to have more control over like what they do. The moves they use and stuff like that. I thought that was super cool, and it would be interesting if they did a game where there was more like the Pokemon are out and you're kind of controlling the actual Pokemon do its combat moves or whatever. I don't know if there's really a way to do that or if people would be super turned off by it, but like a mystery dungeon, Pokémon tournament, Pokemon like combo, to me would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Something where you had more control over what was going on, or even like I believe in some of like the old Pokemon anime.
Yeah.
Like the battles in like the actual like Pokemon world, if you will. It was more designed to be like your Pokemon are fighting, but like you as their trainer are out there fighting too.
Right.
And so that was part of why like in the first generation, Bruno's one of the Elite Four trainers, and he gets there by being like, he trains himself super hard, and he's this really strong guy who gets out there and fights with his Pokemon. That was kind of some of the backstory you don't get from just like playing the game.
Yeah, I watched the show.
So if like Pokemon had like a game where like you as the trainer would get in on the fight some, I think that would be really interesting. So the Mystery Dungeon to me I thought was a good idea and an interesting step in doing a different type of game in the Pokemon world. And I was like, oh, this could be, like, maybe this goes a cool place. Like, maybe they do something just different, you know? And so I thought the Pokemon Mystery Dungeons were super interesting, but the idea of it just being, like, a whole bunch of little puzzles to solve, I was like...
Yeah, I just wasn't the biggest fan of Mystery Dungeon. It's just, like, I played all the originals and stuff, and it's just, like... One game I think most people can agree on, the one that was, like, the worst out of that kind of game, Ranger.
I never played it.
Almost, if you talk to anybody, they'll say Ranger is probably one of the worst games.
Yeah.
Everyone just, because they made it right after the movie, if I recall correctly. What movie was that? It's Pokemon the Sea Temple or something like that.
Yeah.
Right after that.
The Pokemon Ranger.
Right, the Ranger. Yeah. Right after that, that's when they brought in the game. And everyone's like, oh, it's going to be great. It wasn't.
Well, I did, so to that, I thought that was an interesting concept because Pokemon Ranger was on the DS, right?
Right.
So they had the dual screen and they were trying to like get some...
Oh, don't get me started on saying dual screen.
Dual screen? What's wrong with saying dual screen?
No, okay, I went off a tangent here. I saw a video and the guy's like, it took me this long to realize that DS actually stands for dual screen. And I'm like, how did I not know this? I thought it was just DS. And I'm like, no, it stands for dual screen.
Oh my gosh.
How did I just now know that?
That's so funny. That's like the Game Boy SP. I forgot what that stood for, but like that stands for something.
Yeah.
Split pocket or
something like that.
Something ridiculous.
And they even show on the DS a dual screen.
There's two screens right there. Yeah.
I'm 22 years old and I'm just now figuring this out. I'm like, how did I just now figure this out? I was like, oh yeah, I was a kid. Didn't pay attention.
That is so funny.
It's tangent.
So I still think that the DS was one of their greatest like iterations of the handheld console. Like I loved my DS. I thought that it was like the greatest thing that had ever been made. And so having that second screen and them trying to do like a different functionality, I thought that was a good idea and it was a good effort. It didn't work and wasn't popular, but yeah.
I think Nintendo, in the concept of handhelds and just kind of the guiding force between games, I think Nintendo pretty much just takes the lead over PlayStation and Xbox, because they brought the handheld to the frame.
Yeah.
And then now they're even beating Xbox and PlayStation with the Switch.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, we combine, because they're the first company to do this. Like, we're taking a console, you plug into your TV, and also turning it into handheld at the same time.
Well, they had that with the Wii U.
Right.
But it was much less, I don't know, sleek or functional. It didn't feel as...
Not as easy. Because, like, literally now almost like you gotta do is just pull it off and walk.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And with the Wii U, you were tethered to, like, the actual console.
Yeah.
It's like, my boys are starting to get into video games, and so I pulled out my old Wii U. I was, like, I had my oldest, he was playing on it, and he was enjoying it. He had to go take a nap, and he's at that phase where, like, maybe he will nap, maybe he won't. But I was like, well, here, just take this to bed. You can play it in bed. But he got into his room, and he's like, Dad, it's broke. And I'm like, what do you mean it's broke? Like, it's been in the closet for a while, but it's not broke.
Right.
But it had, like, he was, like, 15 feet away from the actual console, and so it was, like, out of range already. So having the Switch being able to, like, go anywhere.
Yeah, because like the docking station, it's just a transfer.
Yeah.
The whole thing is in the Switch.
Yeah.
Which is, again, Nintendo has just taken over that side. Because like even the handhelds, like PlayStation brought out the PSP. Mm-hmm. It's big. It was good. Mm-hmm. It didn't compare to the Nintendo.
Which was so funny to me because like the PSP was like the Switch.
Yeah.
Like way before the Switch was even a concept.
Right.
And, you know, it wasn't as, like, perfected, I guess, as the Switch is, right?
Yeah.
But, like, the PSP, it really felt like you were playing your PlayStation on a portable
and you
console.
can put movies in it.
Exactly.
So
so much stuff.
Which was a turn, like, hey, we're getting into better technology, but still, I think Nintendo just kind of guided that whole, even now, I think they pretty much take it compared to Xbox and PlayStation.
I don't think anybody else is even playing that game. Like, Nintendo just got it.
Yeah.
For somebody to come into that.
Because they're the ones who pretty much started it, and they're the ones who's leading it
they're
again.
running it.
Because especially even like before Switch came out, it was everyone's like PlayStation, Xbox. Those are the two.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the Switch was launched, after the PS4 and Xbox One came out, then it's like, where did these guys come from?
Everybody switched.
You guys can't see this. I'm getting ready to throw something at Jared because of this.
Get it? They switched over.
Yeah, I know. I'm training to Noah.
You know
why he got kicked off a while back.
I thought that's funny.
Yeah,
it's true though.
It is.
Like there was a ton of people that switched from either not playing video games really, or they were an Xbox or a PlayStation house or whatever, but they got a Switch with it because it's a very different type of game you get on the Switch than you do on like your Xbox and stuff. And the functionality is different. So I'm a big fan of Ark Survival Evolved.
Oh yeah.
So I've got an Xbox for that, and that's where I normally play. But they have it on the Switch, and so I was like, well, that could be kind of fun. Like, you'd be able to kind of take it with me when I go on car rides or whatever. So I downloaded it onto the Switch, and it didn't function nearly as well. It didn't look as good. And so like the Switch is it's a whole different thing.
Right.
But it makes sense, especially for like a lot of families, or like if you got young kids, like the Switch just makes more sense if you have kids under like 10. 13, 10, like kids. Like there's just more games for them. Yeah. There's more family type things you can do on the Switch as opposed to like the Xbox or stuff like that, or the PlayStation.
Yeah.
So the Switch just hits like a really big market.
Yeah. See, I think it was 2020, which is when I got my Switch. So it was right. You know, like in 2020, it was COVID hit, and then until like July, everything kind of was like, oh, we can open back up, and then a month after that, everything closed back down.
Yeah.
So in that July, at first, I went up north to visit family, Northern California, and so my cousin and I, we decided to go to Medford, Oregon, which is about 2 hours from where they're at. And I said, Ethan, we are not leaving Medford until I get a Switch. We went to like 7 different stores, could not find one.
Yeah.
we go to one last store. And I asked him, I said, do you have a Switch? He's like, I have one left. It's right there. It was hidden under the cabinet.
Yeah.
And he said, he's like, I was just getting ready to put him out and you came just in time. Yep. Walked out. My cousin's like, you sorry sucker. I said, we did it. I said, now we can go home. He's like, Josh, we've been out here for 4 hours. I said, I know, but I got one. That's all I want.
That's ridiculous. But I had the same problem whenever I wanted to buy one. I went to all the places, like all the stores, like physical stores locally, and everybody was sold out. And I had to wait a couple of weeks buying it through Amazon.
Oh,
like, I bought through Amazon, and you'd think, like, they've got a storehouse. Like, they've got Switches somewhere. But it was back ordered. You know, I had to wait for it to come in. I was like, man, this is nuts. Like, people are going crazy for this stuff.
Yeah, see, I didn't want to wait for ordering, because I could have ordered on Amazon, but I was up visiting family, and as soon as I was on the car ride home, I was going to play it.
Yep.
And then they had, like, the new game or whatever, like a Pokemon game or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I just, like, I'm buying it.
Gotta do it.
I said,
do it.
But yeah, I think overall, just kind of looking forward to the new game, I guess we could say. Really?
Yeah, I am. I think it'll be fun. I enjoyed Sword and Shield, and so I think I'm back engaged enough to be like, yeah, I enjoy them. And my boys are getting old enough to where they can start playing those things too. Right. And so I want to kind of, I think that's a fun thing for me to do with them. Because I mean, Pokemon, like, the beautiful thing about it is that it can be just a dead simple game. They're like a 4 or 5 year old can, like, my 4-year-old can get on and he knows the button to push to, like, throw a Pokeball.
Right.
And, like, he's just as happy as can be. He doesn't need to, like, know that there's a big story going on. Like, he's just happy riding his little bike and catching stuff. And he's having a good time. So I think these are really cool games and reach a lot of people. So it's cool. I'm excited for the new ones.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say.
Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully... that's what I was going to say. So when it comes out, you and I'll have to do another episode talking about our first
playthroughs.
So when we do this, we'll only play till the first gym.
Okay.
And then we'll just come back.
And then we'll do a Nuzlocke.
I'm not doing it. Speaking on my Twitch, which I might move into the plugs, guy gave me on my stream. He's like, "Have you ever tried the Professor Oak challenge?" I'm like, "What's Professor Oak?" He's like, "It's harder than a Nuzlocke." So, like, I guess if you look on Reddit or whatever, before the first gym, you have to have this list of Pokemon fully maxed out evolved.
You say fully maxed out, like level 99?
No, like evolved.
Oh, fully evolved.
So, like, your starter has to be fully evolved before the first gym.
What? Why?
It's a challenge.
How are you supposed to, like, you can't control your Pokemon, like, past a certain level, right? Like, is that part of...
I think so.
Oh.
The guy said, he's like, it took me, like, 200 hours.
So you have to get a specific list of Pokemon, so you got to catch those, and then you have to fully evolve them before the first gym.
And then after the first gym, then you go to the next.
And you have another
list.
list.
And get another list. I'm like, I don't know if I have that much time or determination to do that.
Yeah, it seemed like you'd get bored. But I mean, I don't know. Whatever entertains you and makes you happy. Right?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, but I'm not doing
We'll have to do some kind of challenge. Maybe not a Nuzlocke or a Professor Oak, but maybe we'll do something.
Figure out how far we can get or whatever. But yeah, we'll do another episode on it. So I guess as we're wrapping things up, kind of going through the links. So yeah, if you guys kind of enjoyed, we're hoping the podcast back going up soon. Hopefully starting bi-weekly or however. So if you guys like anything we said, if it's on YouTube, like it, subscribe to YouTube. In the links of the Spotify, I think there's a link tree. You guys can check out all the stuff. Is there anything funny you guys said, cries of outrageous things you hated that we said, whatever? Either put it in the Discord. It's going to be Hazard Society, I think the Discord name is. Or you can email us. I'm going to pull up the email. It's hazard4fans2@gmail.com. Put stuff on there. Say like, hey, Jared said something really funny. You should put it on a shirt. Let me know. I'll order it for him. I've done that to all my friends so far. Which we got to start getting those going. So we got shirts, merch, all that kind of stuff. Which I don't know if you've seen all the shirts yet.
I haven't seen all the shirts. You've shown me like some of the shirts as they come out. So
yeah, so we got to get some more of those coming out soon. Like I said, links are all in the bios below. We'll start do some streams again, merch, all kinds of.
If you've got questions or topics you want us to address, put those in the emails too. Reach out. Like, we'd love to talk about whatever it is that you guys have questions about or fun topics that you want us to talk about.
Also on the Discord too, I post a lot of stuff on Discord. And you probably noticed, I'm not sure who I'm putting on, because we didn't check before we started recording. At the beginning, there's like that disclaimer. There's audition script out for that on the Discord server. If you guys are interested in voice acting and want to try out for that, there is the position open.
You could be the voice of Hazard Animations.
One of the voices.
One of the voices.
Or you can just make fun of Jared. That's fine too.
Don't do that.
On the Discord.
Sensitive.
So is there any final comments that we wanted to talk about? I think we did pretty much cover.
I'll try next time to be better about staying on topic. I'm a bit of a rabbit chaser, as it were. So I'll try to be more on topic next time.
Also, we got to try to make sure it's all. It was really kind of thrown together. I had to do it this morning.
Well, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It was good.
But
we're getting back into it. It's all good.
And like I said, the thing's gonna be reformatted. So it's, probably another time we're gonna start doing trivia, jokes, questions, all that kind of fun stuff. And at the end, we'll probably start doing bloopers because
bloopers are fun
at the very end. So I think nothing else we really need to.
That's all I got.
All you got.
I gave all my good stuff.
Well, again, thanks for hopping on. This is actually your first, I think, with us.
Yeah, it is.
And
we've been trying to link up for a couple of months.
Yeah, and you are actually part of our podcast staff on the Hazard.
Yay!
So, which I got to do announcements on that anyway. Thanks you guys for tuning in, and remember, I can't remember the slogan. I already forgot it. Okay, and remember, it's okay to be hazardous. Just don't get caught doing it. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bow! Scarlet and Violet. Brigatito. Fuicoco. Quaxley.